I'm 39 years old, a single mother working as a dental hygienist, and for the past month I've had the unsettling feeling that someone is watching me, following me. I told myself I was being paranoid. Told myself it was just the stress of co-parenting with my ex-husband and his new wife. Tonight, in a grocery store parking lot at dusk, a strange man knocked on my car window and proved I wasn't paranoid at all. I was loading groceries into my trunk, half focused on whether I'd remembered everything for Emma's school lunch tomorrow, when I noticed him approaching. Middle-aged man, professional-looking, walking directly toward my car with purpose. My first instinct was fear. I'm a woman alone in a mostly empty parking lot as darkness settles in. I got into my car quickly, locked the doors. He knocked on the window. I cracked it maybe 2 inches, hand on my phone ready to call 911. He held up a private investigator's license. James Mitchell, licensed PI. He told me he was the investigator my ex-husband's wife hired to follow me. That he'd been surveilling me for 2 weeks, documenting my parenting, looking for evidence I was an unfit mother. My stomach dropped. Kristen hired someone to follow me, to build a custody case against me. But then James said something that made everything worse. He needed to talk to me about what he found. Not about me, about Kristen. He said I needed to see what he'd discovered during his surveillance. That he thought my children might be in danger. That Kristen's behavior during his investigation had made him so uncomfortable. He was breaking his contract to warn me. If you've ever had that gut feeling that something's wrong but everyone tells you you're overreacting, leave a comment. Subscribe if you've learned the hard way to trust your instincts, especially when it comes to your children. Let me tell you how my ex-husband's new wife went from annoying stepmother to dangerous obsession. I've been divorced from Marcus for 18 months. We were married for 14 years, together since college. I was 22 when we met, 36 when I discovered he was having an affair with Kristen, the office manager at his dental practice. Marcus is a dentist. Successful, well-respected in our community. I'm a dental hygienist. We met in dental school, though I switched tracks early on. We had what I thought was a solid marriage. 2 kids, Emma, who's 12 now, and Lucas, 9. A comfortable suburban life. Nothing dramatic, nothing exciting, just steady and good, until it wasn't. The affair had been going on for 8 months before I found out. Kristen was 32 then, 8 years younger than Marcus, never married, no children of her own. She managed his practice efficiently and apparently decided she wanted to manage his personal life too. Marcus left me for her. Said he'd found real love, that what we had was comfortable but not passionate. All the usual cliches people tell themselves when they're trading in their family for someone newer. The divorce was painful, but I tried to keep it amicable for Emma and Lucas. They were 10 and 7, confused and hurt. I didn't want to make it worse by turning their father into a villain or starting a war. We settled on joint custody. Kids with me during the week. Marcus gets them every other weekend plus Wednesday overnight. I kept our townhouse, modest but comfortable, what I can afford on a dental hygienist salary. Marcus and Kristen bought a bigger house in a nicer neighborhood. Better school district, pool in the backyard, all the upgrades. The kids' rooms there are bigger than their rooms at my place. Marcus married Kristen 6 months after our divorce finalized. I wasn't invited to the wedding, obviously, but Emma showed me pictures. Small ceremony, just family. Kristen in a white dress, Marcus looking happy. Emma told me Kristen cried during the vows and said she was so grateful to finally have a family. That should have been my first warning sign. From day one, Kristen acted like an instant mother to my children. She showed up at Emma's soccer game during my custody time, uninvited, sitting in the stands like she belonged there. She started texting Emma and Lucas constantly, good morning messages, checking on homework, asking about their days. She bought them expensive gifts, a new gaming system, designer clothes, things I couldn't afford on my salary. I try to set boundaries gently. Suggested to Marcus that Kristen should let the kids adjust at their own pace, not force a relationship. He got defensive immediately. Kristen just loves them, he said. I was being territorial, unable to accept that someone else cared about my children. When I asked Kristen not to attend school events during my custody time, those were my moments with my kids. She showed up anyway. Told other parents she was Emma's mom. Some of them believed her. Kristen redecorated Emma's and Lucas's rooms at Marcus's house without asking them what they wanted. Picked out everything herself, threw away things they'd brought from our house, replaced them with her choices. Emma was upset. Kristen had gotten rid of a stuffed animal Emma had since she was 3. When Emma asked for it back, Kristen said she was too old for stuffed animals anyway. The boundary violations kept escalating. Kristen insisted the kids call her Mom K. When Emma refused, preferring just Kristen, Marcus backed his new wife up. It would make Kristen feel included, he said. It was just a nickname. Kristen told Emma she'd take her bra shopping because stepmoms understand these things better than mothers do. Emma was mortified, came home, and asked me to take her instead. I did, and Kristen was furious when she found out. Accused me of undermining her relationship with Emma. The past 3 months, everything intensified. Kristen started texting me at all hours. 2 in the morning asking about Emma's orthodontist appointment. 5 in the morning suggesting Lucas might have ADHD and should be evaluated. She questioned every parenting decision I made. Criticized the food I served, the bedtimes I kept, the amount of screen time I allowed. She called me neglectful for letting Lucas ride his bike to his friend's house 2 blocks away. Said I was raising him without proper supervision. When I pointed out that 9-year-old boys have been riding bikes in neighborhoods for generations, she said times have changed and I was stuck in the past. Kristen started showing up at Emma's therapy appointments. Emma sees a counselor to process the divorce, and suddenly Kristen was in the waiting room, asking the receptionist questions about Emma's sessions. The therapist had to remind her about confidentiality, but Kristen kept pushing. She needed to know what Emma was saying, she insisted. She was Emma's stepmother. She had a right to be involved. She posted on social media about being a mother to kids who needed stability. Never mentioned me by name, but the implication was clear. She was the real mom, providing what I couldn't. Marcus put tracking apps on both kids' phones. Said it was for safety, but it meant Kristen knew where Emma and Lucas were at all times. She'd text me if we were running late, if we took an unexpected route, if we stopped somewhere she didn't recognize. The surveillance was constant. Emma started complaining that Kristen was weird. That she went through Emma's room at Marcus's house, moved things around, read her journal. Lucas said Kristen was too huggy, always wanting physical affection he wasn't comfortable giving. Both kids said Kristen asked constant questions about me, what I did at night, whether I dated, who my friends were, what time I went to bed. I told Marcus his wife was making the kids uncomfortable. He dismissed it. They were adjusting, he said. Kristen was just trying to bond with them. I was being paranoid and poisoning the kids against her, but I wasn't paranoid. I was right. The past month, I started noticing things. The same car in my rearview mirror on multiple occasions, a white Honda SUV. Someone parked down the street from my townhouse at odd hours. A figure outside my house late one night that disappeared before the police arrived when I called. Kristen somehow knew details about my life she shouldn't know. Mentioned that my friend Amy had visited when I hadn't told her. Commented on my new haircut before I'd posted any photos. Knew I'd been late picking Lucas up from school. Only Amy knew that, and she certainly hadn't told Kristen. I felt watched. Followed. But when I mentioned it to Marcus, he said I was being dramatic. Kristen lived 10 minutes away, he said. If I saw her around town occasionally, it was coincidence, not stalking. 2 weeks ago, Kristen sent me a text at 11 at night. We needed to discuss Emma and Lucas's living arrangements, she said. She had concerns about their primary residence. Maybe they should live with her and Marcus full-time. Better house, better school district, more stable environment, and I called Marcus immediately, asked what she was talking about. He hedged, said they'd been discussing it, that maybe the kids would benefit from living primarily with them. I could still see them, of course. Weekends, holidays. But day-to-day, Kristen could provide more. I was 39 years old, working full-time, raising my children the best way I knew how. My house was modest but clean. My kids were healthy, happy, doing well in school. There was no reason for a custody change except that Kristen wanted one. I consulted a lawyer, who told me not to worry. Without evidence of neglect or instability, custody wouldn't change. But she warned me, if they built a case, if they documented problems, real or manufactured, it could become an issue. That's when I realized Kristen was building a case. All her criticism, all her documentation, all her involvement in every aspect of Emma's and Lucas's lives. She was creating a narrative that I was inadequate and she was necessary. And I had no idea how far she'd already gone until tonight, when a private investigator knocked on my car window and told me he'd been following me for 2 weeks on her orders. I followed James to a 24-hour diner 3 blocks from the grocery store. Public, well-lit, safe. I texted Amy my location, a safety measure I'd adopted since the divorce. James was early 50s, professional but tired. Former police detective, now running his own investigation firm for 15 years. He ordered coffee. I ordered nothing. He pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. Inside was a contract between him and Kristen, dated 2 weeks ago. She'd hired him to conduct surveillance on me, document my parenting, find evidence of neglect or instability. $5,000 up front, $10,000 more for actionable evidence. James showed me Kristen's list of things to look for. Evidence I left kids unsupervised. Proof I had men over. Photos of a messy house. Late school pickups, missed activities. Any sign of alcohol or drug use. Anything to paint me as unfit. He'd spent 2 weeks following me, watching me at work, at home, with the kids. And what he found was the most boring surveillance job of his career, that I was completely normal. Worked 8 to 4. Picked Emma and Lucas up on time. House modest but clean. Kids clearly loved and well cared for. Homework at the kitchen table, reasonable dinners, normal bedtimes. Nothing remotely usable for a custody case. James slid more photos across the table. But these weren't of me. They were of Kristen. During his surveillance, he kept seeing her. At first he thought coincidence. But she showed up too often. Too many places. At my grocery store. Outside Emma's school. Parked near my townhouse at night. At the park when I brought the kids. Her white Honda SUV, the one I'd been seeing for weeks. He showed me photo after photo. Kristen following me from work. Outside my house at 11 p.m. 1 a.m. 3 a.m. At the kids' school during school hours, watching through the fence. James had started documenting her instead of me. He showed me screenshots from social media. He'd found Kristen's normal accounts, but then found fake ones. 3 fake profiles created in the past 6 months, all following me, my friends, the kids' accounts. They'd sent friend requests to Emma that she declined as spam. James had accessed Kristen's cloud storage. Ethically questionable, but his conscience wouldn't let him ignore it. What he found horrified him. Hundreds of photos of Emma and Lucas. Photos from school she shouldn't have. Social media photos saved in organized folders. Screenshots of kids' location data. Photos of my house from every angle, different times of day. Photos clearly taken from inside my car somehow. Photos of me through my windows. Recent from the past week, James showed me one more thing that made him decide to warn me. 3 nights ago, while finishing his surveillance, he'd been parked near my townhouse around 2 a.m. Kristen's Honda pulled up. He photographed everything. Kristen approaching my house, trying the front door handle. Locked. Walking around back, trying the back door. Standing in my backyard for 15 minutes, staring at my house. All while my children and I slept inside. James said this wasn't about building a custody case. In 15 years as a PI, he'd seen plenty of bitter divorces. This was different. Kristen hadn't hired him to gather evidence. She'd hired him to legitimize her own obsession. If I noticed surveillance, she could say it was just the PI. Meanwhile, she was escalating far beyond what any professional would do. He'd seen this pattern before in stalking cases. The surveillance, fake accounts, photo collection, nighttime visits. Kristen wasn't trying to prove I was a bad mother. She was trying to become the mother. Her focus on Emma and Lucas was especially concerning. This wasn't about Marcus or competing with me. Kristen had a fixation on my children. James was terminating his contract with Kristen and refunding her money. He had a daughter Emma's age. He wasn't going to help someone hurt kids, but he warned me. Kristen would escalate when she realized he wasn't helping her. I needed to move fast. Restraining order, tell Marcus, document everything, security cameras, emergency custody modification. The problem was Kristen was married to Marcus. Courts might see this as family matter, not stalking. Marcus would defend her. This would be harder because she had legal access to my children every other weekend. I asked if he thought my kids were safe at Marcus's house. James was quiet. Then he said he didn't know. Kristen's obsession was with inserting herself into the mother role. What she did alone with them when Marcus wasn't watching, he couldn't say. But her behavior was escalating, and that was dangerous. My kids were at Marcus's house right now. Wednesday, overnight custody. Asleep with a woman who tried my door handles at 2 a.m., who had hundreds of photos of them organized like a shrine, and I couldn't legally get them without violating custody orders. James gave me a thumb drive with everything. All his surveillance photos of Kristen, fake accounts, cloud storage screenshots, timeline of escalating behavior, his professional assessment that she posed danger. I drove home around 10, checked every door and window, and called Marcus. I tried to explain. Kristen hired a PI. The PI found she's stalking me. She has photos, fake accounts. She's been outside my house at night. Marcus's response was immediate and dismissive. I was being dramatic. Kristen was concerned about the kids. Maybe she'd driven by a few times, not stalking. Maybe she checked social media. Everyone did. I was manufacturing this. He said if I kept harassing his wife with accusations, he'd file a complaint with my employer. Then he hung up. My kids were with her. And he wouldn't listen, that I didn't sleep that night. At 3 a.m., I looked out my window and saw a white Honda SUV parked down the street. Kristen was out there. Watching that, I took photos, called police. By the time the officer arrived, the Honda was gone. He took my report, but said not much they could do about someone parked on a public street. Suggested I file for a restraining order. But until Kristen actually did something, trespassed, made threats, committed a crime, police couldn't help. Following someone wasn't illegal. Taking photos from public property wasn't illegal, that I had to wait until she crossed a line. Thursday morning I called in sick. I picked Emma and Lucas up from school at 3, relief at seeing them safe nearly breaking me. I asked carefully how things were at their dad's house. How was Kristen? Lucas said Kristen was weird. Emma said intense. I asked what she meant. Emma was uncomfortable but eventually told me. Kristen asked questions about me. What I did at night, who came over, what time I went to bed. Kristen went through Emma's room, moved things. Emma's journal pages were slightly out of order. Lucas said Kristen wanted to cuddle constantly, tuck him in though he was 9. Sometimes she sat in his room watching him sleep. He'd woken up and found her there in the dark, just watching. That night I met with lawyer Rachel Morrison. I brought James's evidence, explained everything. Rachel confirmed this was absolutely stalking, grounds for restraining order. But she explained complications. A restraining order wouldn't prevent Kristen from having contact with Emma and Lucas at Marcus's house. She lived there, had step-parent relationship. Court would need proof she was specific danger to children, not just to me. Evidence showed obsession with me and surveillance of kids, but no direct harm to Emma or Lucas. Courts were reluctant to interfere with step-parent relationships without concrete evidence of abuse. I could file for emergency custody modification, but I'd need to prove immediate danger. A judge might see this as difficult family situation, not emergency. Rachel's advice: document everything, file police reports, send cease and desist, request emergency hearing, prepare for fight. Because Marcus would fight hard, I left feeling more hopeless. The legal system wasn't designed for this. Kristen had legal access to my children. Marcus wouldn't believe she was dangerous. Court would take time. I was 39 years old, a working single mother, trying to protect my children from a woman who had legal rights to them. Something was going to break. I just didn't know when. At 39, working full-time and raising 2 kids alone, I thought I knew stress. But the 2 weeks after James showed me that evidence taught me what real fear felt like. Fear that my children were spending Wednesday nights and every other weekend with a woman who watched them sleep and tried my door handles at 2 in the morning. Rachel filed a police report, filed for a restraining order, requested an emergency custody hearing, sent Kristen a cease and desist. Kristen's response came through her attorney. She denied everything. The surveillance was legitimate investigation into custody concerns. Photos were taken from public property, where she had every right to be. My accusations were harassment and evidence of my instability. Her attorney included a counterfiling. Marcus and Kristen were seeking primary custody. They claimed I was creating parental alienation, that my accusations proved my vindictive, unstable character. The emergency hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks out. 2 weeks during which I still had to send Emma and Lucas to Marcus's house that I installed security cameras. Within 24 hours, I got an alert at 2:15 a.m. Kristen's white Honda parked across the street for 40 minutes, watching my house. I called police. By the time they arrived, she was gone. The officer could see I wasn't making this up. Security footage showed everything. But until she tried to enter my property or made threats, they couldn't do much. Document and report build the case. But documentation didn't protect my kids. I talked to Emma's school, explained the situation, showed photos of Kristen, said she wasn't authorized to pick up my children during my custody time. The school put notes in both kids' files. 3 days later, the school called. Kristen had been volunteering in the cafeteria during lunch, had supervisor authorization somehow, had been spending lunch period with Emma for 2 weeks. Emma hadn't mentioned it. When I asked why, she said Kristen told her not to tell me, that it would hurt my feelings, that I'd make a scene. Emma thought she was protecting me from worry. She was 12 years old, being taught to keep secrets from her mother. I contacted Emma's therapist. The therapist couldn't share session details, but she could listen to my concerns. After I explained everything, she was quiet, then said she'd had concerns about Kristen's boundary violations for months. Kristen called the therapist regularly, asking about Emma's sessions. The therapist maintained confidentiality, but Kristen was persistent. Recently, Kristen asked if Emma talked about wanting to live with them full-time. If Emma seemed unhappy at my house. If Emma mentioned me being unstable. The therapist had been documenting these calls. She offered to provide a professional statement for the custody hearing. I talked to other parents from Emma's soccer team. Several mentioned Kristen had been at practices during my custody time. One parent thought Kristen was me. Kristen had introduced herself as Emma's mom. Another said Kristen had been building relationships with Emma's friend group, inserting herself as primary parent. I compiled everything. James's evidence, security footage, school records, the therapist's concerns, other parents' statements, Emma's and Lucas's accounts of uncomfortable behavior. Rachel organized it into a comprehensive presentation. The evidence was strong, she said. But Marcus would fight hard. Kristen hadn't actually hurt the kids. She'd been intrusive, obsessive, inappropriate, but not violent. A judge might see this as high-conflict family drama rather than immediate danger, and if we lost, things would be much worse. 5 days before the hearing, everything escalated. Wednesday, Marcus's custody day. At 2:30, Emma's school called. Emma had never arrived at afternoon class. She'd been there that morning, then left. My 12-year-old daughter was missing. I called Marcus. He dropped both kids at school that morning. The school confirmed Lucas was there. Emma was gone, but I raced to the school. Marcus met me there, both panicking. We called Emma's friends, checked her usual spots. Emma had never run away before. Then Emma's best friend texted. Emma was hiding somewhere. She was scared of Kristen. She couldn't go back to her dad's house. My daughter was so terrified she'd run away rather than face another custody visit. I realized where she might be. My dental office. Emma had been coming there since she was small, knew hiding spots. I found her in a supply closet. Curled up, crying, terrified. She broke down. She couldn't go to Marcus's house anymore. Something happened last weekend. Saturday night, Marcus working late, Emma woke around 2 a.m. Kristen was standing in her doorway, watching her sleep. Emma pretended to stay asleep, frozen. When she moved, Kristen came in, sat on her bed, started talking about how Emma could call her mom, how I wasn't really Emma's mother anymore, how Emma belonged with them now. When Emma said she wanted to live with me, Kristen got angry. Cold. Told Emma I wasn't capable of taking care of her, that I was going to lose custody. That Kristen had made sure of that. Emma stayed awake the rest of the weekend, terrified. Kristen watched constantly, appeared in doorways, took photos while Emma slept. Emma woke once to a camera flash. Sunday, before Marcus brought Emma back, Kristen showed Emma photos on her phone. Photos of me at home, taken through windows. Recent photos from that week. Kristen said she was always watching. She knew everything about me. Everything about Emma. Marcus was there listening to his daughter tell the story. I was recording with Emma's permission. His face went white hearing it directly. Raw fear in his 12-year-old's voice. Something broke in Marcus. Some wall of denial finally crumbling. He called Kristen, told her to come to my office immediately. She arrived 20 minutes later, confident. Still thought Marcus was on her side. Marcus asked her directly, "Did you tell Emma she's moving in with us?" Kristen said she was preparing Emma for the transition. Marcus wanted primary custody, didn't he? Marcus asked about going into Emma's room at 2 a.m. Kristen said she was checking on her stepdaughter. She was allowed to. Marcus kept asking questions, voice getting quieter and more dangerous. "Did you show Emma photos of Diane? Did you tell Emma Diane would lose custody?" Kristen had answers for everything. She was being a loving stepmother. Emma was exaggerating. I had turned the kids against her. She loved them. She was protecting them. I showed Marcus everything. All of James's evidence he'd refused to see before. Photos of Kristen stalking me. Fake accounts. Nighttime surveillance. Evidence of trying my door handles. Hundreds of photos of Emma and Lucas. Marcus saw it all. Really saw it. His face showed shock, horror. As Marcus looked at evidence, Kristen's composure cracked. She started yelling. The kids were supposed to be hers. She'd married Marcus for the instant family. Emma and Lucas were perfect. I didn't deserve them. She was their mother. I was just the incubator. Kristen admitted everything. Yes, she followed me. Yes, fake accounts. Yes, outside my house at night. Yes, planning to get primary custody. But it was because she loved Emma and Lucas. They needed her. Marcus told her to pack her things and leave. Kristen switched from desperate to furious. Those kids need me. Emma is mine. She lunged toward Emma. Marcus blocked her. I pulled Emma behind me. I called police. Officers arrived. Kristen still escalating. I showed them James's evidence. Emma gave a statement. Officers issued emergency restraining order. Kristen was escorted out, yelling she'd get them back. Marcus stood there, destroyed by what he'd finally seen. That night, Emma and Lucas stayed with me. Marcus came to my house around 8, stood on the porch looking destroyed. He apologized. Over and over. Said he didn't see it, didn't want to see it. Thought I was jealous, vindictive. He defended Kristen against his own instincts. Put Emma and Lucas in danger because he chose to believe his new wife over me. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to scream that I'd been trying to tell him for months. But mostly I just felt exhausted. Marcus said he was filing for divorce immediately. Kristen was moving out that night. His brother was coming to stay while she packed. He wouldn't be alone with her. He'd testify at the custody hearing, support the restraining order, do whatever it took to protect Emma and Lucas. The emergency custody hearing happened 3 days later. But it looked completely different than expected. Marcus and I walked in together. Presented a joint petition for comprehensive restraining order against Kristen. Marcus testified against his own wife, admitted he'd enabled her behavior, asked the court to protect his children. Kristen's attorney tried to argue she was a loving stepmother being persecuted. But the evidence was overwhelming. James testified about the stalking. Emma gave a statement. The judge interviewed her privately about that Saturday night. The security footage showed Kristen's car outside my house at 2 a.m. multiple times. The fake accounts. The photo collection. The therapist's concerns. The judge granted a comprehensive restraining order. Kristen couldn't be within 500 feet of Emma, Lucas, me, or the kids' school. No contact directly or through third parties. Violating the order would be criminal. The judge also ordered psychiatric evaluation for Kristen and strongly suggested Marcus file for divorce immediately. Kristen made a scene, leaving the courtroom. Started yelling that the judge didn't understand, that she loved those children, that we were keeping her from her family. Security escorted her out while she screamed threats. Marcus filed for divorce that afternoon. Kristen contested it, showed up at hearings making scenes, sent Marcus hundreds of texts and emails violating the restraining order. Each violation documented, reported. After 3 months, The divorce was finalized. Kristen got nothing and left the state. No one knew where she went. Marcus lives alone now. Custody was modified. Emma and Lucas live primarily with me. Marcus gets weekend visits. For months, those visits happened at public places. Parks, restaurants. The kids needed time to feel safe with him again. Emma is still recovering. She's 13 now, still in therapy, still has nightmares about Kristen standing in her doorway. Anxious about being followed, about strange cars. But her therapist says she's doing well considering. Emma understands it wasn't her fault. She knows she did right by hiding and telling truth. Lucas is 9, less affected but still impacted. Relieved he doesn't have to go to that house. Says he didn't like when Kristen watched him sleep. Happy to be at my house more. Marcus carries enormous guilt. He brought dangerous person into his children's lives. Chose his affair partner over their safety. Ignored my warnings, Emma's discomfort. His relationship with Emma is damaged. She doesn't fully trust him. He's working to rebuild that, but it's slowed. At 39, I thought divorce was hardest thing I'd face. Didn't expect to protect my children from their father's new wife. Didn't expect to be stalked. Have someone try my door handles while we slept. I'm most grateful for James, the PI hired to destroy me, who instead warned me when he saw real danger. Without him, I wouldn't have had proof. Emma might have been seriously hurt. The restraining order is in place for 5 years. But Kristen violated it twice. First time, new fake Instagram following Emma. Second time, sent Emma a gift to school. Staff intercepted it. Both violations reported, warrants issued. Did I have security system, cameras, live with constant vigilance. Emma has phone with one-button emergency call. School has Kristen's photo. We're living cautiously but not paralyzed. Marcus and I co-parent better now than when married. This crisis showed we can work together to protect our kids. He respects my judgment now. Listens when I raise concerns. We communicate constantly about safety. United front against any threat. That I think about what could have happened if James hadn't come forward. If Emma hadn't been brave. If Marcus had gotten primary custody with Kristen in-house. Emma and Lucas would have been living with their stalker. Woman obsessed with replacing their mother. Emma showed incredible courage. At 12, she recognized danger, knew when to run, when to tell. She trusted her instincts even when it meant hiding in a closet. I tell her constantly, you protected yourself and Lucas. You were so brave that I learned being nice isn't worth safety. I tried to be gracious about Marcus's remarriage. Tried to give Kristen benefit of doubt. But my instincts were screaming danger. I should have trusted myself sooner. Being difficult would have been better than putting kids at risk. Kids are healing. Custody works. I have security. Marcus is rebuilding trust. Kristen is gone for now, but restraining orders are just paper. If Kristen decides to come back, paper won't stop her. So I stay vigilant. Not paralyzed by fear, but aware. Protective. Sometimes danger doesn't come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from people with legal rights to your children. Sometimes stalkers are step-parents. The system isn't designed to protect against that. Kristen's love for Emma and Lucas wasn't love. It was possession. She didn't want to be part of their lives. She wanted to erase me and become their life. At 39, working as dental hygienist, living in my modest townhouse, I protected my children from someone the court gave access to them. From someone their father married and defended that we survived. That has to be enough. 8 months after the restraining order, life has found a new rhythm. Not what we had before Kristen, but something earned through crisis and rebuilding. Emma is 13 now. Taller, older, carries herself differently. There's wariness that wasn't there before. She checks over her shoulder in parking lots, notices when cars follow our route, asks me to walk her into places sometimes. Her therapist says this hypervigilance is normal. It may fade or become part of who Emma is now. A girl who learned young that danger wears friendly faces, that sometimes you have to run and hide to protect yourself. But Emma is also stronger. She knows she can trust her instincts. She knows her voice matters, that telling the truth, even when scary, can save you. Lucas is 10 now. He processes it differently. Sometimes asks if Kristen is coming back. I tell him honestly, I don't know, but we have plans. We have security. Marcus sees the kids every weekend now. Not at his house. He sold that place. Couldn't stand living there. He bought a smaller house closer to us. Fresh start. His relationship with Emma is fragile. She loves him, but doesn't trust him the way she used to. She remembers he didn't believe her when she said Kristen made her uncomfortable. That he defended Kristen over her. Marcus knows this. He doesn't push, doesn't demand forgiveness. He shows up consistently, follows through, listens. Rebuilding trust brick by brick. With Lucas, it's easier. He's happy to see his dad, happy they do normal father-son things now. Marcus and I talk regularly about the kids. Real conversations about their well-being, fears, progress. He asks my opinion, takes my concerns seriously. We're better co-parents now than we were married. Did I still work as a dental hygienist? Same office. But my coworkers know what happened. They know to watch for white Honda SUVs, to check doors are locked, the security cameras are still active. I check them constantly. Most of the time there's nothing, but twice in 8 months there's been something. First time was 3 months after the restraining order. 2 a.m. Motion alert. Different car parked across the street for 20 minutes. I couldn't identify the driver. Called police, filed report. Second time was last month. Different car, middle of the night. This time I could see the driver. It was Kristen. She'd changed her appearance, cut her hair short, dyed it darker. But it was her. I called 911 immediately. Police responded within 10 minutes, but she was gone. They issued warrant for violating restraining order. But Kristen left the state again before they could serve it. She's out there somewhere. Still thinking about Emma and Lucas. Still watching when she can. The kids know she came back. I didn't hide it. They deserve truth. Emma was scared but not surprised. Said she knew Kristen wouldn't really go away. That we reviewed our safety plan. Emma and Lucas both have phones with GPS. They know never to go anywhere without checking with me first. They know if they see Kristen anywhere, find an adult immediately and call me. The school has Kristen's photo at every entrance. Staff know to watch for her. It's exhausting living this way. Always vigilant. Always prepared. At 39, I thought I'd be worrying about Emma's grades and Lucas's soccer. Instead, I'm checking cameras at 2 a.m. and teaching my children about restraining orders. But we're alive. We're together. Emma and Lucas are safe. James still checks in occasionally. He feels responsible even though his warning saved us. His evidence was crucial to the restraining order. Kristen is out there somewhere. The restraining order is active nationwide, but she's already violated it twice. Paper doesn't stop obsession. I've thought about moving, starting over somewhere she couldn't find us. But Emma's in therapy here, has friends, goes to school here. Lucas has his routine, his life. Running would mean she wins. So we stay. We live our lives. But we're careful. Emma told me last week she wants to be a lawyer when she grows up. She wants to help kids who are stuck like she was. When the system says you have to spend time with someone who scares you, when adults don't listen, she's turning her trauma into purpose. At 13, she's already thinking about how to protect other children from what she experienced. I'm proud of her. She survived something that would have broken many adults. Marcus told me recently he's in therapy now too. Working through his guilt, his failure to protect Emma and Lucas. He said his therapist asked why he defended Kristen so hard even when evidence said something was wrong. He didn't have a good answer. Pride, maybe. Not wanting to admit he'd made a mistake. Easier to believe I was the problem than face what Kristen really was. I don't forgive him easily. But I'm trying. For the kids' sake. Sometimes late at night when I can't sleep, I check the security cameras one more time. Most nights there's nothing. Quiet suburban darkness. But I know Kristen could come back. She's already proven that twice. At 39, working as a dental hygienist, raising 2 kids mostly on my own, I've learned that sometimes the most dangerous person is the one everyone else thinks is harmless. The stepmom who just loves the kids so much. Kristen taught me that obsession looks like love until you see it clearly. That danger wears familiar faces. That the system designed to protect children can give access to the very people children need protection from. I'm grateful we survived. Grateful James warned me. Grateful Emma was brave. grateful Marcus finally listened. Emma and Lucas are okay. We're healing. We have security and plans and vigilance, but Kristen is still out there. Still obsessed. Still believing Emma and Lucas belong to her. And I'll be watching. Always watching. Protecting my children from the woman who tried to replace me. This is our life now. And we're making it work.